You had just muttered in your dream that married women are the most desirable. The next moment, you were reborn from a lifetime of lonely single dom into the body of a complete jerk. He was from a well-off family, married a rising young star as his wife, and even had a cute daughter with her. But after the honeymoon phase ended, she was unexpectedly fired from her job, blaming her ruined career on being married to this so-called jinx. You couldn't help but mutter under your breath, "What a bastard," at the tea that moment. The mother and daughter, still trembling from the domestic abuse they had suffered, huddled on the couch. Xia Xiao, hold her child, noticed your gaze lingering on them. Instinctively, she pulled Meng Meng closer, tears filling her eyes. She had thought about running away with Meng Meng, but she was an orphan herself, and all the money was under this demon's control. Seeing their fear, you sighed deeply, letting your frustration settle before slowly standing up and turning on the lights. Warm orange light filled the room, illuminating the messy space. Looking around at the chaos, you scratched your head in disbelief. First, you opened the window for some air, then quietly began cleaning up the empty bottles around the room. Xia Xiao remained huddled on the sofa, holding Meng Meng, only showing a flicker of surprise in her eyes. You didn't rush to disturb the mother and daughter. Instead, you grabbed a towel from the kitchen and tidied the table, leaving the room spotless. Sweat drenched your clothes, so you grabbed clean clothes from the bedroom and headed to the bathroom. Xia Xiao, watching the bathroom door close, finally allowed herself to relax. Seeing the now clean room, disbelief filled her eyes. "What is this demon playing at?" "Mama, I'm hungry," Meng Meng said, her big round eyes staring at her mother. "Good girl, we'll eat soon," Xia Xiao whispered, stroking her daughter's hair. She knew she had to wait until this demon went to sleep before she could cook for herself and Meng Meng. Then the bathroom door opened. You stepped out, and the mother and daughter flinched slightly on the couch. You shook your head and ignored them. They quietly left the house. Xia Xiao froze, a wave of despair crossing her face. Did he go out for more drinks again? She hadn't had a proper meal yet tonight, and now she and Meng Meng would go hungry. Her lips quivered as tears streamed down. "Don't cry, Mama. I'm not hungry," Meng Meng said, thinking her own hunger had made her mother sad. She stretched out her tiny hands, clumsily wiping Xia Xiao's tears. Xia Xiao bit her lip, tears flowing even harder. After a long moment, she whispered with a trembling voice, "Meng Meng, good girl. Mama will put you to sleep. Once you're asleep, you won't be hungry. Tomorrow morning, I'll make you something delicious." She hummed a lullaby, coaxing Meng Meng to sleep. Watching her daughter's eyes slowly close, Xia Xiao's mind replayed the heartbreak of the past 2 years of marriage. She finally decided tomorrow she would leave this hell, even if it meant dying outside. It would be better than being tortured here. Suddenly, the door lock clicked. Xia Xiao shivered, instinctively covering Meng Meng's ears and listening quietly. You opened the front door and, glancing at the sofa, paused. The mother and daughter had returned to the bedroom, but hadn't eaten. Holding the food, you placed it on the table and walked toward the bedroom. Xia Xiao's body tensed. Hearing your footsteps approaching the bedroom, she prayed you wouldn't come in. Then a knock echoed. "I bought you some food. If you're hungry, come eat. I'll sleep in the side room tonight." Startled, Xia Xiao opened her eyes. She heard your footsteps retreating, and quiet returned to the room, broken only by her own anxious breathing. Meng Meng, curious, opened her eyes and watched the closed bedroom door, remembering today's strange behavior from her father. Seeing the food, Xia Xiao's heart trembled. He had actually bought a meal for her and Meng Meng. The sudden kindness from this demon didn't bring joy, it only deepened her fear. Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? Barefoot, Meng Meng waddled over, peeking through the doorframe, eyes wide with excitement and drooling a little. She didn't move on her own, instead staring at her mother. Xia Xiao closed her eyes helplessly, inhaled deeply, and forced a faint smile as she lifted Meng Meng. "Quiet now, Meng Meng. Let's eat." Meng Meng nodded eagerly. Outside, you heard the noises and sighed deeply, then drifted back into thought. After buying the food, you realized there were only about $1,800 left in the house. Money was going to be a problem. Moments later, your eyes lit up as an idea struck. This is a parallel world. Excited, you grab your phone, scrolling through it. A smile spread across your face as you realized the cultural and entertainment landscape was completely different from your world. Even the annoying singers from before now topped the charts point one by one. Classic songs surfaced in your mind. Exhausted, you eventually drifted into sleep. The next morning at 6, you quietly opened the bedroom door. The table and kitchen were spotless. Xia Xiao had cleaned after eating last night. Standing there for a moment, you slipped into the bathroom to wash up. You knew Xia Xiao usually didn't wake until 8 to cook, because you used to sleep past 10. Only after she drank in the morning could mother and daughter eat leftover food. You sighed again, washing quickly. Xia Xiao was awake but dared not leave the room. The bathroom sound ceased, the door closed. She pressed her lips together tightly, holding back a shiver. Mengming's eyes stayed glued to the bedroom door, curious. Where did she go this time? After waiting for a long while with no movement outside, Xia Xiao glanced at her still sleeping daughter. Summoning her courage, she quietly climbed out of bed, opened the bedroom door, and stepped out. The alcohol smell in the room had thinned, and a breeze of fresh air drifted through the window. The scent was so pure, so unfamiliar, that Xia Xiao felt almost unreal. She hadn't breathed air this clean in ages. She moved to the window and gazed outside, momentarily lost in the view. Only then did it hit her she was only 24. After some time, the sound of the door opening startled her awake again. Her body tensed automatically, turning mechanically. You froze awkwardly, surprised that Xia Xiao had already woken up. She had realized the house had no food after washing up, so she had just gone out to buy some meat, vegetables, and rice. Both of you froze for a moment. You finally got a good look at your wife in front of you. Stunningly beautiful, far more so than any influencer or celebrity from your original world. But she was too thin, her face unnaturally pale, probably from long deprivation of sunlight and nutrients. Seeing her like this stirred a mix of pain, guilt, and shame within you. How could you, such a brute, treat a wife this beautiful so cruelly? Truly, you deserved nothing. Good morning, I'll start cooking first. You broke the silence, grabbing the groceries and heading to the kitchen. Xia Xiao couldn't believe her ears. He had actually greeted her. And when did he even learn to cook? She watched silently as you worked, a deep wave of grievance washing over her. Her lips trembled and her eyes grew wet. What is this? What am I supposed to make of this conscience? Meanwhile, Mengming had woken up, probably looking for her mother. Barefoot, she ran toward the kitchen. The scent of food hit her little nose immediately, and she turned wide-eyed toward the kitchen. You saw her and smiled at the little one, but Mengming, startled, shrank back. You sighed, ruffling your nose. Soon, the meal was ready. You glanced at the two of them, still hesitant at a distance, and called them over. Mengming's mouth watered, but she still didn't move. Xia Xiao, equally stunned, watched in disbelief. You had expected some eagerness, but seeing their guarded expressions, your excitement sank, and you let out a quiet sigh. Go ahead, eat first, you said, stepping into the side room. Xia Xiao didn't move. You glanced at the closed side room door, then at the hopeful eyes of your daughter, letting out another sigh. Mengming, wash your hands and come eat. On the table was millet porridge, golden and tempting, alongside two small side dishes and a small bowl of steamed egg. Mengming's eyes lit up the moment she saw the egg. Mom, did Daddy make this for me? Xia Xiao was momentarily speechless. Seeing her daughter's expectant gaze, she nodded. Mengming's eyes sparkled even brighter as she eagerly scooped a spoonful into her mouth. It was the first meal her father had made her, and it was delicious. Xia Xiao ate quietly, struggling with conflicting emotions. Her gaze drifted involuntarily toward the side room door, still closed. You, sitting at the desk in the side room, were starving, but you knew the mother and daughter weren't ready to share the table with you yet. Shaking your head, you pushed the thought away and opened your phone to the local platform. You deleted your old account, which still had a few thousand followers, and registered a new one. Habitually, you opened the trending list and immediately frowned. What kind of garbage is this music? When did random viral singers start trending? A plan formed in your mind. You pulled out some long-forgotten manuscript papers Xia Xiao had left behind. Laying them on the desk, your pen moved rapidly across the sheet. In this parallel world, even complex tasks like transporting music through time and space were trivial. In mere moments, a complete musical score was in front of you. Excited, you grabbed a guitar from the wardrobe, sat at the desk, and let your emotions flow. Closing your eyes, your fingers strummed lightly. The sound of the guitar filled the room. Xia Xiao, quietly eating, froze in shock. He can play guitar? How is this possible? And that guitar, it's mine? She knew she never learned to play, at least not before. What was happening? Your voice followed the guitar. Because I dreamed you left me. I woke from tears, watching the night breeze pass the windowsill. Can you feel my love? When we grow old, will you still be by my side? Watching the years drift slowly past. Xia Xiao's eyes widened in disbelief. Even Mengming, happily eating, was captivated by your voice. She paused, staring at the closed side room door, head tilted, mesmerized. She realized this was the first meal her father had ever made, and his voice was gentle and comforting. Even though Xia Xiao had never heard this song, she felt its power. The melody was so beautiful, it was hard to imagine it came from a demon like you. The next lines came, "People admired your youth, but who can withstand the merciless passage of time? So many have come and gone in your life. Yet know this throughout your life, I will be by your side." Xia Xiao could no longer hold back. Her shoulders trembled, tears falling freely. 2 years, 2 long years of fear and suffering. 2 years without music. 2 years trapped at home, facing nothing but chores, mess, and a slowly monstrous husband. Now, having finally summoned the courage to escape, what did this song mean? Why the sudden change? She felt herself unraveling, overwhelmed by fear of the future, fear of this unpredictable transformation. Could this be a fleeting dream? The music stopped. Meng noticed her mother crying, climbed onto Xia Xiao's lap, and reached out with her tiny hands, trying to wipe away the tears. "Don't cry. Mama, don't cry. Meng will comfort you." Meng thought her mother was in pain again. As she wiped Xia Xiao's tears, she lifted her little face and gently blew on her mother's back under the collar. Beneath the fabric, Xia Xiao's back was covered with faint, purplish scars. You, of course, had no idea what the mother and daughter had just experienced because of your song. At this moment, you were recording a video. Your face wasn't fully visible, only your nose and below while you held the guitar and cleared your throat. This time, you played more formally, performing the song from start to finish. After finishing, you saved the recording, cut out any idle moments at the beginning and end, extracted the audio, and uploaded it online with proper copyright attribution. Once everything was done, you titled it "A Life With You," an original song dedicated to everyone, hoping it would be well received and get plenty of likes. With the video uploaded, you let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, it was done. Now you just had to wait and see how people would respond. In this era, this song was a hit waiting to happen. You put the guitar back in a wardrobe, rubbed your empty stomach, scratched your head, and wondered if the mother and daughter had finished eating. You were starving, it was almost cruel. Unable to wait any longer, you gently pushed open the door and peeked out like a thief. You saw Xia Xiao carrying Meng away from the table. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. She noticed you, froze for a moment, then hurried back to the master bedroom with the child. Relieved, you walked over to the table and finally got to eat. You were pleased to see that some of the food had been left for you. You scooped up the millet porridge and devoured it, clearing the dishes and tidying up the bowls. After eating, with nothing else to do, you wandered around the apartment. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 living room place, about 50 square meters, bought together when you first married. Everything inside had been arranged at that time, now showing signs of wear. You shook your head and plopped back onto the sofa. It was hard to imagine how Xia Xiao and her child had survived here for 2 years with so little contact with the outside world it felt like a prison. You knew you couldn't change everything immediately. All you could do was sit on the small sofa, scrolling through your phone, looking up how to maintain a household, how to make a child happy, how to be a good father. Online advice was endless and confusing, leaving you scratching your head. Then the master bedroom door opened and a little head peeked out. Meng tilted her head, her big, sparkling eyes curious as she surveyed you. The innocence and clarity in her gaze melted your heart. Her face was still thin, just like her mother's, and you thought she would look even cuter if it were a little rounder. Previously, this mother and daughter had only eaten leftovers, and alcohol-tainted food was off-limits for the little one. The original owner hadn't given them money, so they had to scrape together meals. You instinctively wanted to smile at Meng, but your mouth hadn't even formed a grin before she got scared, quickly closed the door, and ran back. Xia Xiao's clear voice echoed from the room as she comforted the child, her smile frozen. You touched your nose helplessly as time quietly passed. WY noon. You put down your phone and stood. It was time to make lunch. Just then, the bedroom door opened and Xia Xiao, expressionless, carried a pile of your clothes out. She walked straight toward the bathroom, as if she hadn't even noticed you standing by the sofa. You noticed her stiffen slightly. Was she going to do laundry? Suddenly, you remembered that the clothes you had changed yesterday were still in the washing machine. You quickly headed toward the bathroom. Xia Xiao's heart raced. She hadn't expected you to still be at home. You usually would have gone out drinking with your friends at this hour. Hearing your footsteps approach, her body trembled slightly. My clothes are still in the washer. Can I take them out to dry first? Your familiar voice came from behind. Xiaoxiao, bending over to open the washing machine, jumped, shrinking slightly into the bathroom. Be careful, you added instinctively. Only then did Xiaoxiao realize you were asking her permission. Her eyes darted away, too nervous to meet yours. Thanks to go first, she whispered, clenching her fists, hand trembling, eyes a mixture of anger and heartache. You had just clearly seen the purplish scars on her neck and back. You didn't look at her further, focusing on the clothes in the washer. That I'll make lunch. Call Ming Ming when she wakes up. Xiaoxiao shrank back, panicked. She knew your presence only added pressure. You sighed, picked up the washed clothes, and headed to the balcony to hang them. Xiaoxiao froze by the washer, watching the smoke rise from the kitchen. Her gaze kept drifting to the kitchen, unsure of what to make of it. She instinctively touched her nose and then froze again. Since when had she developed this habit? She stood there, listening to the drum of the washing machine, her mind in turmoil. Once all the clothes were washed, she took them to the balcony to hang them, while the man kept bustling around the kitchen. Ming Ming woke up on her own, still barefoot, rubbing her sleepy eyes with tiny hands. When she saw you busy in the kitchen, her big, beautiful eyes lit up, and she curiously leaned on the doorframe, watching your back. Xiaoxiao, having hung the clothes, turned back and saw this small, half-drowsy figure, full of expectant wonder, staring at you working in the kitchen. Her mind almost broke. She turned sharply, backed against the wall, hands covering her face, crouching down as tears silently streamed. This was a scene she had only ever dreamed of long ago. You still didn't sit at the table with them. After putting the food on the table, you hurried out of the house. Hearing the door, Xiaoxiao wiped the tears from her face in a rush, biting her lip. She stood up, holding Ming Ming, and walked over to the dining table. No one could know how complex her emotions were at that moment. Not even she herself fully understood what she was feeling. The meal was as delicious as breakfast, and the little one had already happily eaten the steamed egg. But the peaceful lunch for the mother and daughter was soon interrupted by the sound of the door opening. They instinctively looked up and saw you pushing the door open, carrying a large bag. Ming Ming wobbled slightly in your arms, her little spoon of steamed egg still in her mouth, and her big eyes followed your every movement. You kept your gaze lowered, not daring to look at the startled mother and daughter. You walked to the sofa, set the bag down, and spoke in a slightly muffled voice. I got some ointment for you, remember to use it. And I got a toy for the little one. I'm not sure she'll like it, but I noticed other little girls have one, so she probably should too. Xiaoxiao didn't respond. You paused for a moment before continuing to, I know you might not believe me, but I need to say this. I won't drink anymore, and I won't hit you two again. You and Ming Ming don't need to be so afraid at home. The child is still small, and this kind of environment isn't good for her. After saying it all in one breath, you felt a heaviness lift from your chest. Without waiting for Xiaoxiao to respond, you quietly returned to the side bedroom. Xiaoxiao watched your figure disappear, and, seeing the bedroom door close, didn't know what to say. In just one day, facing this man's sudden transformation, she still couldn't lower her guard. Inside the bedroom, you felt even worse. Your eyes were red, and while you were outside, you had been trying to shield her. If you could, you would rather not have crossed over at all, not witnessed any of this, especially the scars on Xiaoxiao's body, which weighed down your heart. Just one day in this house, and your spirit was nearly crushed. You couldn't understand how someone could harbor so much malice toward their own family. After lunch, Xiaoxiao still left some food for you. She glanced at the bag on the table for a moment, then held Ming Ming and headed to the master bedroom. You heard the bedroom door close and knew they had finished eating. You then got up and left your room down on the coffee table. The bag remained unopened, quietly in place. You pursed your lips and sighed, not knowing what to do, and finally sat down to eat silently. Unexpectedly, the master bedroom door opened again. Ming Ming poked her little head out, curiously watching you eat. You smiled at her this time, and she didn't run away. Still curious, she kept her gaze fixed on you. Your heart relaxed slightly, and a sense of relief washed over you as this little soft ball of energy seemed to heal some of your tension. You put down your chopsticks and, in the gentlest voice you could muster, called out, Ming Ming. Your voice made the little one tremble slightly, but she didn't retreat. She glanced toward the master bedroom, as if drawing courage, then looked back at you. A soft, tender voice came from her mouth. Hearing it, your whole body shivered, and tears welled up instantly. It was the most beautiful melody you had heard since crossing over. Ming Ming tilted her head, confused by the father who was laughing and crying at the same time, wondering how someone could smile through tears. You gently responded with a soft sound, then stood and walked to the sofa. You reached into the bag and took out the doll you had just bought, gently shaking it for Ming Ming. Her big eyes blinked, intrigued. She looked at the doll, then turned back toward the master bedroom, hesitating before finally shuffling toward you. Your heart raced. You didn't want to scare this little one who had finally dared to approach you. Ming Ming only knew that Daddy could make delicious food, and now he had a toy she liked. She sensed he wouldn't be mean to her or her mother. She came to your side, lifted her little face, sniffed hard, and then broke into a bright, happy smile. "Do you like the doll, Daddy?" You spoke to her with all the gentleness you could muster. Ming Ming's little hands moved as if she wanted to take the doll, but she didn't have the courage yet. Instead, she fixed her wide, shiny eyes on yours. Seeing this, you slowly knelt down to her level and placed the toy in her hands. Finally, Ming Ming took the doll. Her gaze shifted from you to the doll. She ran her tiny fingers over its soft skirt, and her eyes curved into crescents. Watching her joy, your emotions were mixed. Seeing her small, thin face up close, and the faded, clearly too small clothes she wore, your heart ached like being pricked by needles. She was only 3 in age, meant to be cherished, but now she was overjoyed by a small toy. You gritted your teeth, quickly wiped your eyes, forced a smile, and quietly watched Ming Ming play by your side. In that moment, there was nothing else in your eyes. Inside the master bedroom, Xia Xiao was even more nervous. She didn't know if this was right or wrong, but she agreed with what you had said earlier. The child was still small, and she shouldn't grow up in such an atmosphere. Allowing the child to approach you was the most she could do. Outside, Ming Ming's laughter rang like silver bells. Xia Xiao couldn't help but shed tears, quietly sitting on the bed and wiping them away. Before long, Ming Ming seemed tired from playing. She hugged the doll tightly, glanced at her smiling father, frowned slightly, then trotted back to the bedroom. You watched her little figure disappear, touched your nose, and smiled silently. Looks like you'd need to buy her some proper slippers. Bare feet weren't a good habit. What you didn't know was that in just one night, your song A Life with You had gone completely viral. By 10 that night, the video had successfully made it to the trending list. Meanwhile, at Bain headquarters, the operations director, Yang Qinglin, was in her office. Having just finished a day's work, she frowned at the person knocking on her door, her expression serious. A technician, Xiao Li, entered, holding a tablet. Seeing the usually decisive director, he wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Director Yang, I have a special report. There's a video on the platform that hit the trending list in just 2 hours. It's currently number 5. Yang Qinglin didn't look overly concerned. She furrowed her brows and waved for Xiao Li to hand her the tablet. What's the panic? This isn't the first time something like this has happened. So, which big influencer messed up this time? Not a big influencer, Xiao Li replied, cautiously careful to read her expression. It's a brand new account registered today. And the video didn't go through our push system, it's just a song. Hearing that, Yang Qinglin's expression shifted from indifferent to surprised. She was clearly intrigued. A song, and it's already trending at number 5 without any promotion? She leaned back in her office chair and opened the trending list on Douyin. Her eyes widened further. It's already number 4. Let's see what kind of song this is. After listening, Yang Qinglin fell silent. In all her years at Douyin, she had never heard a song this beautiful on the platform. She clicked on the creator's profile, Xinyao. A lovely name. Xiao Li, you did well. Push this video, get more people to see it. Make sure it's number 1 on the trending list tomorrow. Xiao Li nodded firmly, knowing his gamble had paid off. After Xiao Li left, Yang Qinglin listened to the song one more time. It was still just as mesmerizing. She tapped her fingers lightly on the desk. Lost in thought. A moment later, she picked up her phone and sent a private message. Meanwhile, at home, you were already awake at 5. You didn't yet know that your song had gone viral. After a quick wash-up, you headed out for your morning run. Your body was worse off than you thought. You were exhausted and gasping for air within minutes, running and stopping repeatedly. After an hour, you had covered 5 kilometers, the plan you had set for yourself. By the time you returned home, it was 7:40 a.m. You had just pushed open the door when you ran into Xia Xiao, fresh out of the bathroom, drying her hair with a towel. She jumped, startled. "I didn't know you were out. I'll start making breakfast now." You froze for a second, awkward, but quickly replied, "Mingming's still sleeping." Xia Xiao pressed her lips together and nodded quietly, her heartbeat quickening. After seeing you so full of morning energy and vitality, a stark contrast to the disheveled man she was used to, her heart flustered. She instinctively moved aside, hurrying to the kitchen. You looked toward Ming. "After I shower, I'll make breakfast. Anything you want me to cook?" Your voice carried a faint, teasing warmth. Xia Xiao froze in her steps. After a moment, a soft voice came from her lips. "And no, you just sit. I'll take care of the child." She quickly ducked into the bedroom, as if fleeing. You watched the bedroom door close and shrugged helplessly. After showering, your hunger was overwhelming, and your body craved alcohol, leaving you uncomfortable. You could barely stop your mouth from watering, drinking hot water while cooking to soothe yourself. By now, Ming was awake. Xia Xiao had washed her, and she clutched the doll you had bought yesterday, peeking curiously at you from the kitchen doorway. You turned and saw her and smiled, a soft, fatherly grin spreading across your face. "Good morning, Ming. What do you want for breakfast today?" Ming tilted her head, deep in thought. Then her eyes lit up. "Steamed egg. I like steamed egg." "All right, steamed egg it is," you said indulgently, reaching to tousle her tiny head, but she shyly pulled back. Not wanting to scare this little angel, you smiled gently. "Take your time. No rush." You could feel her slowly accepting you. Seeing that gave you hope and lifted your spirits. Even the craving for alcohol and gnawing hunger seemed distant now. You placed breakfast on the table and returned to your bedroom, letting the mother and daughter eat first. But this time, there was laughter and chatter coming from the kitchen, a welcome change. Lying in your bed, you picked up your phone, still on silent, to check how the video was performing. Unlocking it, you were shocked. Notifications flooded your screen, so many, it made you swallow hard. Opening Douyin and visiting your page, you nearly went blind from the sheer numbers. Over 1 million followers. Your heart raced. 2 million likes, nearly 1 million comments, all glowing praise. The song had made you famous in a single day. Even better, the comments were overwhelmingly positive, with people asking for more songs like this. Checking your earnings in the back-end wallet, your grin widened. Just from traffic without a single ad, the video had already earned a staggering 320,000 yuan in one day after taxes. Finally, a sigh of relief. You had money. Life wouldn't be so tight anymore. Back when you only had 1,000 yuan, even buying groceries felt risky. After transferring the earnings to your bank, you waited for the two of them to finish breakfast. Once you heard the bedroom door open, you quickly went out to eat, clearing the table. Then, after washing the dishes, you grabbed your phone and rushed out. You live in an older district of Jiangxing. The neighborhood was run down, but it was cheap. When you and Xia Xiao got married, neither of you had been working long, and your funds were limited. You had dreamed of moving to a nicer place someday, but after 2 years, your original partner had neither sought work nor contributed financially, spending all your savings and even selling Xia Xiao's phone for alcohol. Leaving your shabby apartment, you headed straight to the mall you remembered. The first thing you saw was a store specializing in a well-known domestic smartphone brand. Perhaps because most people were at work, the store was nearly empty. A young female clerk was lazily painting her nails behind the counter. Her eyes brightened the moment she saw you, and she hurried over to, "Hi, sir. Are you buying a phone?" You nodded, surveying the store counter and browsing around before finally choosing a sky blue model. The young female clerk's face lit up. "Wow. Great choice, handsome. This is our latest model cutting-edge tech, with 100x zoom and the world's first phone to support satellite calls." You nodded thoughtfully, then added, "Do you sell SIM cards here?" "Of course. Is it for yourself?" she asked. "And oh, it's not for me. It's for my wife," you replied. The clerk froze for a moment, glancing at you. Internally, she felt a twinge of disappointment. So young. Already married good men are always taken. Huh? He didn't even blink, spending thousands on a phone for his wife. Out loud, She said politely, "Your wife is very lucky, sir. I'm sure she'll love this phone. But to get a SIM card, she'll need to come in person with her ID for registration." "Okay, that's fine. Just wrap the phone for now," you said, scratching your head. You hadn't expected that SIM cards required ID verification. Soon the phone was packaged, you scanned and paid, and left the store quickly. There were still plenty of things to buy, and you didn't want to waste any more time. Back at home, Xiaoxiao had tidied the house from top to bottom and now sat on the sofa, gazing out at the bright blue sky. After 2 days of airing the rooms, the stench of alcohol was gone, replaced by fresh air streaming through the windows. For Xiaoxiao, this was almost unimaginable, a simple comfort she had never dared hope for. Watching Ming play happily, a small, involuntary smile tugged at her lips. Life felt good. Suddenly, the sound of the door unlocking pulled her from her thoughts. Ming jumped up, clutching her doll and burying herself in Xiaoxiao's arms. "Outside, you were speaking to the movers. Slow down, don't scratch." It lifted straight into the room. Xiaoxiao panicked slightly, holding Ming tightly and backing toward the bedroom. But curiosity got the better of her, and she peeked out. You and a stranger were maneuvering a cream-colored, cloud-style sofa into the room. When your eyes met hers, they lit up with joy. "Could you help me pour a few cups of hot water? Let the movers take a quick break after this." "Sure, I'll go get it," Xiaoxiao replied, a little flustered from her long time without interacting with strangers. She hugged Ming and hurried to the kitchen. You and the movers carried in the new sofa, replaced the old one, and moved in the television, refrigerator, and other appliances. The moment each piece of new furniture arrived, the apartment transformed. What was once worn out and lifeless now looked vibrant and full of energy. The old furniture. You sold it all for 800 yuan. Xiaoxiao winced, sure, it was old, but perfectly usable. She couldn't understand where you got all this money, because she had calculated that the household should still be scraping by. After sending the movers off, you returned to the living room with a large bag, surveying your work with satisfaction. The once cramped living room now felt full and cozy finally. It felt like a home. Wiping sweat from your face, you put the bag on the new coffee table and plopped onto the soft sofa. In the kitchen, the mother and daughter stood there, still taking it all in. Ming had been set down and clutched her mother's leg, peeking around at all the new furniture. Seeing this, you couldn't help but smile, eyes crinkling with delight. You reached into the bag and pulled out a large, pink toy, placing it on the coffee table while keeping your gaze on Ming. As expected, her eyes locked on the toy, unable to look away. One hand held her doll tightly, while the other clutched Xiaoxiao's shirt as she leaned forward to get a better look. "What's that toy, Daddy?" she asked. You held her hand out, smiling warmly. Ming, come see what Daddy bought for you." She didn't rush over immediately. First, she looked up at her mother, then hesitated before slowly approaching. By now, you had unwrapped the toy, revealing a miniature princess house inside. "You want to decorate the princess's house with Daddy?" you asked. Ming's eyes sparkled with excitement, and she crept closer until she was at your knees. You smiled gently and held up the tiny princess figure. "The princess isn't dressed yet. Daddy can't do it. Will you help me make her look pretty?" You handed the princess to Ming. She blinked, then tentatively reached out. You guided her small hand with your own, letting her feel the figure in her hand, and your lips curved into a soft smile. Then you picked up the princess's pink dress, holding Ming's tiny hand in one of yours while handing the dress with the other. "Daddy's counting on you to dress the princess now." "Okay, Daddy," she squeaked. Daddy's hands are so warm, warmer than Mommy's. Ming looked from the princess to your slightly awkward expression and suddenly burst into giggles. "Daddy's silly. I'll teach you." Clumsily, she began putting the dress on the princess while leaning against your leg. You laughed along with her, humbly learning how to help the little princess get dressed. In that moment, the small room was filled with light and warmth. Leaning against the doorframe, Xiaoxiao watched quietly, her heart swelling as she witnessed this beautiful scene. Your eyes watered. Father and daughter hadn't been playing for long. Ming was still decorating the princess house under your guidance. When you looked up, you noticed Xiao leaning against the kitchen doorway, lost in thought. Her pale blue shirt, faded from washing, caught your eyes sharply. For a fleeting moment, you remembered it had been a matching parent-child outfit, bought secretly by Xiao for Mengming's second birthday. Later, the daycare staff had discovered it, and Xiao was punished. Her phone was sold by the original owner. The memory made you fall silent. The next second, you suddenly stood, clutched your mouth, and dashed to the bathroom, vomiting violently. Now you understood how nauseating and infuriating it felt to witness such behavior from a first-person perspective when you had a conscience. The sudden commotion startled the mother and daughter. Xiao shivered, quickly ran to the sofa, and scooped Meng into her arms. Meng burrowed into her mother, afraid that the vomiting father might suddenly reappear, just like before, and lash out at them. Every time he had made such noises in the past, he had seemed like a ferocious, man-eating tiger. After a while, you stumbled out of the bathroom, eyes bloodshot. Seeing Xiao and Meng frightened, your heart ached even more, your stomach still churning, but you forced yourself to speak weakly. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I just feel unwell. Thinking about occupying her body now made you feel thousands of ants crawling across your skin. Xiao and Meng remained cautious, so you sighed heavily, walked past her holding Meng, and quietly entered the kitchen to start washing vegetables. Meng might not have played enough yet. You play a bit more. I'll make lunch, you said. Xiao glanced at your profile, so familiar yet strangely foreign. She nodded and sat down, holding Meng in her lap. Meng peeked out from her mother's arms, finally smiling again when she realized her father was still the gentle, loving man she trusted. When you brought the lunch to the table, Xiao quietly returned to the side bedroom. Her lips moved slightly, but no words came out. Meng, holding her small spoon, suddenly looked at her mother, furrowing her tiny brows. Mom, why isn't Daddy eating with us? Xiao chewed a piece of stir-fried meat, her favorite dish, something she rarely ate since marriage because you couldn't handle spicy food. Hearing her daughter's question, she glanced toward the side bedroom, then back at her puzzled little girl. She smiled. A blossom of spring, radiant and beautiful. That's because Daddy and Mommy aren't ready yet, she said gently. The little one didn't understand, frowning further. Her small mind couldn't grasp her mother's words that in the bedroom. You sat dazed, knowing your sudden vomiting was psychological. No matter how much you reassured yourself it wasn't your fault, it didn't change the fact that this was your father, the original abuser. Feeling helpless, you picked up your phone and scrolled through the trending Douyin videos to distract yourself. Your video was still topping the charts, with countless comments urging you to release more songs. The sound of dishes being washed in the kitchen drew your attention. You put down the phone and opened the bedroom door. The lunch was still waiting for you on the table. Xiao was washing the dishes, while Meng returned to the sofa, playing with her new toy. Seeing you, Meng wasn't as fearful as before. You smiled, gently stroked her little head, then turned toward the kitchen. Xiao, coming out of the kitchen, caught your gaze. Her heart raced. Her hands didn't know where to go, and she nervously twisted her shirt corner. Seeing her subdued posture, you frowned and sighed inwardly. Your gentle, restrained nature was precisely why the old demon had bullied her with impunity. Shaking off the thought, you picked up the phone from the coffee table and spoke gently. I bought a phone for you. See if you like it. There's also something I'd like to discuss. Could you come sit over here? Xiao, who had been looking down, finally raised her eyes. First, she met your clean, clear gaze, then noticed the brand-new phone on the table. She hesitated, then softly said, and slowly sat on the sofa where you usually Saturday. What did you want to discuss? Her voice was barely audible, requiring careful listening. You didn't answer, instead unboxed the sky blue phone and set it up briefly before placing it in front of her. This phone comes with a SIM card, but you'll need to register it yourself. I've saved my number in it if I'm not home. You can call me anytime. You dug into your pocket and pulled out a wad of cash, placing it before her. This is some money I just withdrew. Take Meng out for a walk this afternoon. Being stuck at home all the time isn't good. Buy anything you need. especially clothes. I noticed both of your clothes are quite small. Also, carrying only half a bank card with cash isn't safe or convenient. You rattled off everything on your mind in one breath. Xia Xiao looked up, staring at you. Her eyes slowly welled with tears as she listened to your rambling. Seeing her hesitate to take the phone, you scratched your nose. Don't like the phone? I thought the color was nice, and it's the newest model. If you don't like it, we can get another one. She shook her head, gazing at you. No, I like it. Thank you. Her voice was still soft, slightly choked with a subtle tremor. Your eyes met hers. Then you looked away, feeling relieved. Good then. No need to thank me. I'll go eat now. You stood and quickly approached the dining table, digging in. Xia Xiao still wondered silently where you had gotten so much money to buy all this, but since you didn't say, she didn't ask. She glanced at the sky-blue phone on the table, appreciating its quality. Meng Meng put down her toy and leaned in curiously, watching the new phone in her mother's hands. Xia Xiao reached out and gently stroked her little head, and together they examined the device, one big, one small, their eyes fixed on the screen. Having sweated so much that morning, you had finished lunch and washed the dishes, planning to take a hot shower. But seeing the mother and daughter lingering in the living room all day made you feel awkward. Reluctantly, you returned to the bedroom, slightly frustrated, postponing your bath WY5 in the afternoon. The heat finally softened. Xia Xiao sat on the sofa, hesitating for a moment, then picked up the cash from the table and led Meng Meng out of the house. Meng Meng hadn't been outside in ages. She was thrilled, her doll in one hand, holding her mother's hand with the other, bouncing along with wide, round eyes, drinking in the new world around her. Xia Xiao, however, felt a little self-conscious. Her steps quickened as she walked, noticing the passers-by and feeling insecure about their ill-fitting clothes, worrying that strangers would cast extra glances at them. The mall wasn't far. Crossing 2 streets, she noticed that it looked quite different from her memory. In just 2 years, the renovations had made it far more refined. Once inside, Xia Xiao spotted a mobile phone store with a counter for SIM cards. She hesitated, then led Meng Meng in. The store was busy, the employees hustling about. Xia Xiao, long and used to interacting with others, stood awkwardly in place. Luckily, a female staff member noticed her and approached, first gently touching Meng Meng's head, smiling warmly. What a well-behaved little one. Are you here to buy a phone, ma'am? Hearing the compliment, Xia Xiao smiled faintly. No, I have a phone. I want to get a SIM card. Can I do it now? The staffer maintained her smile and guided her to the counter. Of course. We have several plans available. May I ask what brand your phone is? If it's our brand, there's a discount for the SIM card. I could see the word discount. Xia Xiao's eyes lit up. She quickly pulled the phone from her pocket and handed it over. This one, it's the model we just bought this morning. Is it okay? The staffer's expression froze briefly. This was the latest model, hardly sold more than once today, and the mother-daughter pair were here to register SIM. She realized this must be the wife and child of the handsome man who had come in that morning. Though their clothes were mismatched, they were clearly connected. She couldn't reconcile the earlier impression of the man. He didn't seem unkind. Shaking off her confusion, she maintained her warm smile. S.O. The handsome man from this morning is your husband? You're so lucky. With this latest phone, you could choose this plan top up 100, get 100 extra, plus 600 free call minutes. Her cheerful service, now directed at Xia Xiao, made her dizzy with a mix of awe and disbelief. Xia Xiao successfully registered the SIM and, leaving the store, still heard the staff's enthusiastic words echoing in her mind. Incredible! And she had said your husband was a good man. She wished she could tell the staff, this kind of good man, you might as well take him home yourself. Afterwards, Xia Xiao opened a bank account, deposited the cash you had given her, leaving 4,900 yuan after paying for the SIM. You had given her a full 5,000. Holding the phone and bank card, she walked outside, taking in the surrounding skyscrapers. Suddenly, she felt alive. She could take Meng Meng out, find work, support herself and her child, maybe even chase her own dreams again. The sudden freedom left her rooted in place until a tiny, familiar voice rang out. Mom, could I have an ice cream? she snapped back to reality. Meng Meng still held her hand, her round eyes locked on an ice cream shop ahead, saliva threatening to escape her lips. Xiaoxiao laughed a bright, radiant smile. Yes, but only one bite, or your tummy will hurt. Meng Meng's delight was clear. Mother and daughter had finally ventured outside, experiencing joy they hadn't known in a long time. Meanwhile, you had taken a refreshing shower, unaware that Xiaoxiao might not return if circumstances had changed. You began preparing the evening meal, 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetables. You considered making soup noodles, but since you didn't know when they'd be back, you held off, not wanting the noodles to go soggy. You set out the ingredients on the cutting board and returned to the living room, sinking into the sofa, scrolling through parenting forums. What if the child refuses to eat? Spanking isn't an option. Forget it. Meng Meng was so well-behaved. How could she refuse food? You yawned, feeling a bit drowsy as the clock struck 7 in the evening. Where were they? Concerned, you rose, put on your shoes, and headed toward the door, but just as you opened it, a fragrant breeze hit your face. Xiaoxiao and Meng Meng had returned. Xiaoxiao hummed an unknown tune, walking lightly, a smile tugging at her lips. She carried several shopping bags. Meng Meng clutched her mother's clothing with one hand, the other still holding her doll. What stunned you most was that they were wearing properly fitting clothes. Their lively, almond-shaped eyes widened when they saw you. Meng Meng sweetly ran over and called out, "Daddy!" Her joyful voice nearly lifted your soul. Trembling, you responded, crouched down, ruffling her hair, and scooped up the adorable little girl, leading her inside first. "Daddy, can you make noodle for me today? With 2 eggs? Please, I love eggs." "Daddy, you're my favorite." Outside, Xiaoxiao was a little flustered by the sudden change. Just moments ago, Meng Meng had said she loved her mom, and now she had betrayed her with such loyalty to her father. It didn't take long, the egg noodles were ready. You placed the bowl in front of her, lightly ruffling her little nose, and turned to head back to the bedroom. But before you could take a step, a small hand tugged at your shirt. "Daddy, can you eat with me?" The soft, hesitant voice made you pause. You glanced at Xiaoxiao, sitting quietly nearby. She didn't say a word, barely looked up, simply focusing on her own bowl. You exhaled softly. This situation was tricky. Finally, you offered, "All right, I'll stay and eat with you." Sitting beside Meng Meng, she clapped the other side of her chair excitedly. You awkwardly returned to the kitchen to fetch another bowl of noodles and sat down next to her. Xiaoxiao on the left, you on the right, and in between sat Meng Meng, encircled by both parents for the first time. Her smile never faltered, and she ate with such enthusiasm that her bowl was completely emptied. Xiaoxiao finally stopped her, fearing she might overeat. After dinner, Meng Meng wanted both parents to play in the princess house with her, but her wish went unfulfilled. You stayed with her alone, while Xiaoxiao quietly returned to the bedroom. You understood. Allowing herself to eat at the table had already been a huge mental struggle for her. You reflected on her position. If you had faced that kind of past abuse, trying to get along with the enemy would be impossible. No, if it had been the old you, the outcome would have been far darker. You spent the next few hours playing with Meng Meng. By 9 o'clock, she was exhausted, her little head nodding, but she stubbornly resisted sleep. During this time, you noticed a serious issue. Meng Meng, now 3, still couldn't take off her shoes by herself. Most children her age, ready for preschool, could do this easily. You understood it was the result of an unhealthy past environment. Progress would take patience. Yet it tugged at your heart. At tea that moment, Xiaoxiao emerged from the bedroom. She didn't speak, but her gaze lingered on you and Meng Meng. You immediately understood. Gently, you lifted Meng Meng from the sofa and planted a kiss on her little face. Thought it's bedtime. Meng Meng, "Tomorrow, Daddy will play with you again, okay?" Her eyes, nearly closed, opened slightly. She glanced at your face, then at Xiaoxiao, before burying her head in your neck. "That I want to sleep with Daddy tonight," she said unexpectedly, leaving you momentarily stunned, and Xiaoxiao's face slightly darkened. You looked at her innocently. This was the child's choice, not yours. Xiaoxiao clenched her fists, internally realizing that the little one had been swayed in just 2 days by your gentle care. After a simple wash, Xiaoxiao watched as Meng Meng happily crawled into bed with you, clinging like a tiny koala. You allowed her to hold on to you, and for the first time, you read a bedtime story aloud, recalling videos of Yuer's enchanting storytelling. Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom, there were 2 very cute children, and one of the daughters was named Elsa. Meng Meng's eyes slowly closed, a satisfied smile on her face, drifting into sleep. The next morning, she was still asleep when you rose early. Quietly opening the bedroom door, car and heading to the living room for a morning run. Your eyes widened in surprise. Cream jars on the coffee table were gone. A small smile spread across your face. After a 2-hour routine of running, showering, and preparing breakfast, it was time to wake your daughter. Your gentle voice stirred Meng, who rubbed her sleepy eyes, then broke into a cute, mischievous grin upon seeing you. She stretched out her tiny arms, asking for a hug. You immediately picked her up, helping her put on the new clothes bought yesterday, before heading to the bathroom for her morning wash. Though you had learned childcare techniques online, practice proved far more difficult than theory. Her delicate body made you cautious. Everything felt clumsy, especially tying her hair, which ended up crooked. Daddy is a big dummy. Meng pouted, noticing her messy hair in the mirror. You pinched her tiny nose, causing her to giggle. Then she reached up to gently pinch yours in return. Xiao, watching this tender scene from the doorway, said nothing, but her lips curved into an unconscious smile. After a simple breakfast together, you didn't hand Meng back to Xiao. Instead, you continued to play in the princess house, subtly introducing her to basic numbers 1 to 10. Realizing her gaps in learning, you devised a plan to gradually teach her essential knowledge through everyday play. Meng, quick to grasp things, remembered many lessons immediately. Since yesterday evening, she seemed brighter, more lively, and noticeable improvement that warmed your heart. Xiao sat quietly, scrolling through apps on her phone, watching the subtle interactions between you and Meng. She noticed how you were gently teaching Meng little things without her realizing it, and a faint warmth stirred in her chest. She had always wanted to educate her child, but their past family environment had been too harsh. She had never had the ability to nurture Meng like a normal mother. Pulling her gaze back to the phone screen, she marveled at how quickly the latest apps downloaded within seconds. Several apps were ready to use. As she logged into WeChat, a string of unread messages popped up. They were from Tao Lele, the assistant who had worked with her for 2 years. Since Xiao got married, she had ignored these messages, but they had continued coming, mostly asking about her well-being. Reading them now, Xiao felt a warmth in her heart and quickly replied, "Sorry, Lele, I haven't been able to respond. I'm doing well now, don't worry." Almost instantly, Tao Lele responded, "Xiao, you're alive? I thought after you got married, you wouldn't talk to me anymore. You have no idea, ever since you disappeared, gossip spread like wildfire at the company. That annoying Lu Jia has been unbearable, spreading lies about you, saying you deserved it. It's infuriating." Xiao pursed her lips slightly, acknowledging the truth in Tao Lele's words. She had been ahead of Lu Jia at work, and it was natural that after she left, Lu Jia would try to reclaim the upper hand. "Lele, how have you been? How's life?" she asked, leaving her own situation aside for the moment. "I'm doing fine, Xiao. Don't worry. I'm the indestructible little cockroach. But I've missed you so much. Are you planning to come back?" Xiao hesitated. Would she ever return? She glanced at you, then at Meng. Slowly, her longing faded. "Probably not. But if Lele wants to meet, we can arrange a time to catch up," she replied. Meanwhile, in the Tiame Entertainment building downtown, Tao Lele, a petite girl around 1.6 meters tall, dropped the heavy equipment from her shoulders, thrilled as she tapped on her phone. Suddenly, a sharp voice snapped her out of her excitement. "Tao Lele, are you slacking off? Hurry up and work. You think you're still the assistant of a popular young star? If you don't want to work, leave now." The woman's face was sharp and haughty, with slanted, sly eyes full of disdain. "Stop staring and take the equipment to the studio. Do you have any idea what would happen if you delay my recording?" Tao Lele rolled her eyes but obeyed, carrying the equipment to the studio. Back at home, Xiao smiled faintly as she read the next message from Lele. "Xiao, I have Saturday off. Let's contact each other then." She switched to Weibo and noticed her last post had been 2 years ago, her retirement announcement. Her once massive following of hundreds of thousands had dwindled to a few thousand, mostly devoted fans who still left messages of care. Curious about recent viral trends, she clicked on a headline about a suddenly popular song. "A Lifetime with You Mysterious Singer gains millions overnight with just one video." The screen automatically played the video. A familiar guitar melody filled the living room, and suddenly everything went silent. You instinctively turned your head, embarrassed. Meng's wide eyes were glued to the screen as she snuggled into Xiao's arms. Xiao froze. The song, this familiar voice, was the one she had heard a few days ago while recording a video. Meng pointed at the screen with a small finger and looked up at Xiao, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "It's Daddy. Daddy is on the phone." Xiao gently stroked her daughter's head and whispered, "Now you understand why Daddy has so much money to buy furniture and pay for everything at home. Millions of likes, it's no surprise he can afford it." She glanced at your sharp, defined profile, her gaze complex. Meng, reassured by her mother's explanation, The living room went suddenly quiet, only the song lingered in the air between the three of them. You turned your head awkwardly. Mengming's big eyes blinked, and she tumbled happily into Xia Xiao's arms, staring at the phone screen. Xia Xiao froze completely. That familiar melody wasn't that the same song drifting out of the room a few days ago, so she had been recording a video that day. It was Mengming who spoke up first. She stretched out her tiny finger, pointed at the phone screen, and looked up at Xia Xiao, her big eyes brimming with curiosity. "It's Daddy's inside the phone? Is it Daddy?" Xia Xiao patted the little one's head and smiled back at her. Only now did she understand why you'd suddenly had so much money to replace the furniture. With millions of likes, how could you not have money? She turned and looked at your sharp, defined profile, her expression complicated. Meng, delighted by her mother's answer, dove back into your arms with even more enthusiasm. Two tiny hands cupped your face. Her big eyes were full of light. "Daddy is so gentle," she said in her soft little voice. Meng wants to sing too. Meng wants to be inside the phone. Too small, soft hands pressing against your face. You felt something in your expression melt completely. You cupped her little face with both of your hands in return. "Does Meng like singing?" "Yes." Mengming's eyes curved into crescents as she answered without a moment's hesitation. Your smile grew even brighter. "All right, Daddy will teach Meng to sing. Once Meng learns the song, we'll put on the phone together. Deal?" Meng nodded her little head over and over, then planted a big, enthusiastic kiss on your cheek. Rewarded with that, you beamed with joy. Under Mengming's completely adoring gaze, you bolted back in the side bedroom, pulled out your guitar, and settled back onto the couch. You adjusted the tuning, then looked up and found both Xia Xiao and Meng staring at you without blinking. Your face rarely went a little red. You ran your fingers across the strings. "Today, Daddy is going to write a song just for Meng. Daddy will sing it through once first, and then Daddy sings a line. Meng sings a line. Sound good?" Meng nodded eagerly, her little face full of anticipation. "This song is called Courage Explosion. Listen closely, Meng." You strummed the first chord, and a bright, bouncy melody filled the living room. Mengming's sense of rhythm was surprisingly good. She swayed her head and body along with every beat, without even thinking about it. You found yourself swaying right along with her, watching. This pair of father and daughter moving in perfect sync. Xia Xiao's eyes slowly softened, a quiet smile crept on her face, and before she knew it, she was swaying along too. For the first time, the whole family was completely lost in happiness together. In that moment, even the living room seemed to glow. Following the song, Meng pumped her little fist in a heroic superhero pose. You set down the guitar and did the pose right alongside her, then reached out and gently tapped her on the nose. Meng collapsed into your arms, both little arms wrapping tight around your neck. "Daddy Meng likes it like this. Daddy, please don't go back to being like before." "Okay." Mengming's soft, sweet voice floated in your ear. Your mouth fell open slightly and your eyes went glassy. You pulled her close and held her tight, burying your face in her closed. "Daddy won't." Your voice was rough but steady. Xia Xiao couldn't see your face in that moment. Tears were already running silently down her own cheeks, but she was smiling. She knew the days that had come before were gone. Gone for good. You were the first to pull yourself together. You set the guitar aside and lifted Meng onto your lap. "Meng, let's learn the song now. Daddy sings a line. You sing a line after me. Ready?" "Okay." Meng agreed instantly. What followed became a full teaching session between father and daughter. The living room rang with their voices for the entire morning. Seeing the two of them completely absorbed in learning the song, Xia Xiao quietly slipped away to make lunch, though it was clearly not as good as yours. At the table, Meng kept loudly announcing she wanted Daddy to cook all her meals from now on, which earned her a mildly jealous side-eye from Xia Xiao, who was quietly seething on the inside. "You little traitor. Bought off in 2 days flat. This kind of warmth, this was what a real family was supposed to feel like." Meng learned quickly. In just 3 days, she could sing Courage Explosion all the way through to 8 Meng's insistence. You filmed a video of her and posted it to Douyin. In the video, Meng Meng was wearing a pink princess dress and a big bow in her hair, her tiny body swaying and bouncing with the music. Impossibly cute. Behind the camera, your face was one giant smile radiating that unmistakable "this is my daughter, and I am so proud" energy. Xia Xiao, watching from the sidelines, caught a glimpse of your expression and nearly choked trying to hold back her laughter. She had never seen you look like that before. Over those 3 days, your noticeably good behavior had softened things between you and Xia Xiao considerably, to the point where she would now actually initiate conversation with you, and one had expected it. But the second video from the account Xingyao turned out to be a children's song. Original as always. Just as beautiful as before. Shaoli at Douyin HQ spotted the video almost immediately. After watching it all the way through, she gave it the maximum boost without a second thought. Such an adorable little dumpling. Such a gorgeous song. Shaoli was grinning ear to ear, practically an Annie emoji in human form. Almost immediately, Douyin's trending page erupted again. The storm over a lifetime with you hadn't fully settled, and now Courage Explosion hit like a second wave. This video climbed even faster. Within a single afternoon, likes hit 5 million, and the comment section was so overwhelmed that by evening you had no choice but to silence your phone again. You sat on the couch with Meng Meng in your arms, scrolling through comments with endless delight. The comment section was a goldmine. If I had a daughter like this, I would not allow a single boy within 100 miles. Most like comment, like father, like daughter. Dad opened with a lifetime, with you a royal flush. Daughter follows up with Courage Explosion, perfect continuation. Does this mean the next video is mom's turn? Most replied comment. The next day, Saturday. You had just finished your morning run and pushed open the front door, still wiping sweat, and walked straight into Xia Xiao, coming out of the bathroom in a new strappy slip dress. She had clearly just showered. She was blow-drying her hair, her flushed cheeks faintly pink from the steam. The two of you stared at each other. A line of poetry floated into your mind. Natural beauty, like a lotus risen from clear water, it fits Xia Xiao perfectly in this moment. Noticing you standing there staring like a statue, Xia Xiao instinctively crossed her arms over her chest. Her face was heating up, all the way to the tips of her ears. They'd been married for over 2 years, and yet somehow this felt exactly like two people who had just started dating. Morning. Xia Xiao did her best to sound composed as she greeted you, but her feet were already carrying her toward the bedroom faster than intended. Morning. You gave a simple reply. Xia Xiao said nothing more. She practically fled back into the bedroom. You let out a helpless laugh, shook the scattered thoughts out of your head, and hummed your way into the bathroom. Shower, cook breakfast, wake Meng Meng up, the daily trio. When you pushed open the bedroom door, Meng Meng was still fast asleep, mouth slightly open, sprawled out across your big bed like a tiny starfish. After a few days of proper meals and rest, color had returned to Meng Meng's cheeks. She was still that same little handful, but you could visibly see how much better she looked. You sat on the edge of the bed and watched her for a moment, then leaned down and gently pinched her little nose. Meng Meng, time to wake up and eat. The little one on the bed scrunched up her lips, opened one eye slowly, and the moment she saw you, the corners of her mouth curled up helplessly. She reached out 2 short little arms and wrapped them around your neck. Daddy, soft and wheedling. You smiled, scooped her up, carried her out of the bedroom, and set her on the step stool in front of the sink. For the past 2 days, Meng Meng had been washing her own face and brushing her own teeth. You stood beside her, steadying her, squeezing toothpaste, handing her the towel. Meng Meng was sharp 2 days of showing her, and she had the whole routine down. Xia Xiao came out of the bedroom at the same time, her long hair twisted up into a high bun, and the look of it made your eyes light up before you could stop them. You gave a quiet nod inwardly. Now that's the kind of energy someone in their 20s should have, though still too thin. A little more roundness, and she'd be even prettier. Xia Xiao was still a little nervous inside. Her cheeks lightly flushed. This was the first time she'd come out of the bedroom styled like this at home. She wasn't sure how it looked. She glanced over at you, still tending to Meng Meng, and quietly made her way to the dining table. His eyes definitely just lit up for a second. So it does look good. Wait, why did she care what he thought? Xia Xiao puffed out her cheeks in annoyance, and stirred her bowl of porridge with her chopsticks. She was irritated at herself for caring. You came over at that moment with a freshly washed and ready Meng in your arms. Meng called out a sweet mama and picked up her special little spoon, stirring the golden millet porridge in her bowl. "Can you come out with us today?" You had been enjoying your breakfast with your head down and looked up at Xiaoxiao's question with a slightly puzzled expression. Xiaoxiao gave a small nod without quite meeting your eyes, but her earlobes had gone a vivid shade of pink. Sure, you agreed without hesitation. Out on the street, you flagged down a taxi. Your destination today was Yida Plaza in the city center. Xiaoxiao had made plans to meet her former assistant Tao Lele at a milk tea shop there. The reason you and Meng were coming along was entirely because Tao Lele wanted to see the little one, and for the past few days Meng had become your little shadow, inseparable from you at every moment. So you were purely along for the ride courtesy of Meng. After 2 years, she was finally going to see Xiaojia again. Tao Lele's heart was pounding with excitement. She had arrived early, bought several cups of milk tea, and was sitting there with her eyes glued to the entrance. Tao Lele and Xiaoxiao had worked together for a year and a half close as sisters. Xiaoxiao had always treated her very well. It was just a shame that afterwards Xiaoxiao had gotten together with you, and Tao Lele had never understood why Xiaojia would want to be with someone so completely unremarkable. She couldn't figure it out, and she tried to talk her out of it. But back then, Xiaoxiao had been completely set on her decision. There was no reaching her. Tao Lele was still lost in her thoughts when she suddenly spotted that familiar silhouette walking through the door, hand in hand with a bouncy little marshmallow of a child. Her eyes lit up. She jumped to her feet and waved wildly. "Xiaojia, over here." Xiaoxiao heard the voice, looked up, and found Tao Lele's enthusiastically waving hand. Immediately, a smile spread naturally across her face. Lele hadn't changed at all, still as bubbly and full of life as ever. Yes, they drew close. Both sets of eyes were bright with more than just happiness. After so long apart, neither of them could quite hold their feelings in. Tao Lele looked Xiaoxiao over carefully, and her eyes went even redder. She grabbed Xiaoxiao's hand, her lip trembling. "Xiaojia, you've gotten so much thinner. Did that man treat you badly? Where is he? I'll deal with him myself." Xiaoxiao pressed her lips together and shook her head. She sat down beside Tao Lele, pulled Meng on her lap, and spoke quietly. "Lele, don't worry. She treats me pretty well now. What about you? Has work been going all right since I left?" "I've been good too to Xiaojia. You have no idea how much I've missed you." The two of them caught up with each other, trading news back and forth. After a while, Tao Lele finally shifted her gaze to the little. The little one had been sitting quietly beside them the whole time. Tao Lele had been so absorbed catching up with Xiaoxiao that she hadn't taken a proper look at her until now. When she finally did, her eyes lit up immediately. She looked so much like Xiaojia, practically cast from the same mold. Especially those bright, expressive eyes. Point one look, and you couldn't help falling for the little thing. Does Xiaojia, is this Meng? She looks just like you. So cute. Tao Lele stepped away from her seat as she said it, crouching down in front of Meng and gently touching her little cheek. Then her brow furrowed slightly. Meng, just like Xiaojia, was far too thin. Tao Lele was furious on the inside. She was absolutely certain that useless man had been treating Xiaojia and the child badly. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She wanted to confront him to his face. She looked up at Xiaoxiao. "Xiaojia, didn't you say he'd be coming too? Where is he?" Xiaoxiao could feel the hostility radiating from Tao Lele. She just didn't know how to explain it, so she let out an awkward laugh. Meng wants ice cream. She want to line up and get some for the kids. Tao Lele caught the look on Xiaoxiao's face immediately, and it only made her angrier. Xiaojia had always been gentle and quietly composed by nature, but now there was something timid layered underneath that gentleness. She could feel it. Not wanting to upset Meng, Tao Lele swallowed it down with a cold snort and returned to her seat, quietly grinding her teeth and fantasizing about doing serious damage to you. Xiaojia. Tao Lele had just opened her mouth when she suddenly stopped. Her eyes sharpened, fixed on the entrance to the milk tea shop. Xiaoxiao blinked, her expression going even more awkward. She assumed you had arrived, and that was what triggered Lele's hostility. She was just about to turn around when a voice came from behind her, slightly shrill and pointed. Tao Lele, you have time to sit around drinking milk tea. Did you finish the work I gave you? Lu Qian, get a rest. Today is a day off. Tao Lele's face darkened. She stared the speaker down like a bristling cat. Xia Xiao turned around and recognized her immediately. Lu Qian. Xia Xiao was briefly taken aback. A former colleague, a rising singer of the same company, who also took the serious artist route. Well, is it the Xiaojia? You're not home being a good little housewife. What brings you out to find Lele? Lu Qian's eyes were smiling, but her words were all venom. Before Xia Xiao could respond, Tao Lele erupted first. Lu Qian, mind your own business. It's not a work day, so cut the passive-aggressive act. Xiaojia. Let's go. There's a rabid dog barking in here, and it's going to ruin our mood. Tao Lele jumped up, grabbed Ming Ming, and took Xia Xiao's hand to leave, but Lu Qian stepped in front of them first, her expression darkening. She looked Xia Xiao up and down, a provocative smile playing at the corner of her mouth. Xiaojia, you've gotten so thin. Life not going well? If it's not, just say the word, little sis. I can spare a little charity. I'm generous like that. Look at Lele, she's doing odd jobs under me now, and life's not bad at all. Am I right? Tao Lele's face went ashen. She stared at Lu Qian without saying a word. Xia Xiao snapped her head toward Tao Lele, disbelief written all over her face. Odd jobs meant grunt work. How could the company have put Lele through that, though right now was clearly not the time to ask? When Xia Xiao turned back to Lu Qian, there was anger in her eyes, but before she could say anything, Tao Lele spoke first. Why contract with the company runs out at the end of the month? I'll be resigning, then naturally. I just hope a certain someone doesn't climb so high that the fall breaks her. If Xiaojia makes a comeback, a certain someone might not even be able to sleep at night. Lu Qian stiffened at that. She did have a complicated history with Xia Xiao. Xia Xiao had outshone her for a full year and a half. During that time, who even knew Lu Qian's name? But Lu Qian quickly recovered, fixing Xia Xiao with a dismissive look. A comeback. That's the funniest joke I've heard. I guess there a company out there willing to sign a washed-up artist dragging a kid around. Speaking of the kid, Lu Qian glanced at Ming Ming. She's actually pretty cute. You might want to consider grooming her into the next big thing. She said it. Lu Qian reached out with smug indifference, actually moving to pinch Ming Ming's little cheek. Don't you dare. Get your hands away from her. I promise you touch her once, and you'll have nowhere left to cry. Two voices rang out at exactly the same moment. One was Xia Xiao's. The other, deeper and steadier, was yours. You crossed the space with your eyes locked and cold, stepped in front of Xia Xiao, handed the ice cream to the three of them, then turned to face Lu Qian, putting yourself squarely between her and Xia Xiao and Ming Ming. Lu Qian flinched, instinctively stepping back 2 paces. When you were angry, the weight of it was palpable, but she steadied herself, looked you over properly, and suddenly laughed. Oh, it's just this pretty boy deadweight that I was wondering who it was. So it's you. What, you're going to hit someone in a public place? You frowned and glanced back at Xia Xiao, your expression asking a clear question. Who is this person, and where did she come from? She's a singer from my old company. I didn't expect to run into her here. Angry as you were, others might not have been afraid, but Xia Xiao was. Seeing you look at her, she dropped her eyes slightly. Seeing that, your frown deepened. You let out a quiet sigh and didn't push further. You turned back and looked down at Lu Qian. A singer? I'm sorry, I've never heard of you. Don't know who you are. All I know is that a good dog doesn't block the path. Move. You said it with complete seriousness. Lu Qian's voice went sharper. Know your place. You think I don't know you've been sucking up to Gao Cheng and Su Bin from that idol group, buying them drinks every other day? And now you're in here acting like someone important? Gao Cheng. Su Bin. You turned the names over in your mind and eventually placed them. After the original Bodies group disbanded, he had tried to relaunch his solo career and had indeed spent a lot of time and money trying to get on their good side. They never gave him the time of day. I don't know those two either. Keep this up, and I'm calling security. Lu Qian shot you a sharp look, then stepped aside. You took Xia Xiao's hand and gestured for Tao Lele to follow, walking straight out, but as you brushed past Lu Qian, she couldn't resist one final shot at Xia Xiao. Such a shame some people will never sing again. Xia Xiao, my new single drops at the end of this month. Lu Qian laughed with genuine delight as she said it. How could you possibly compare yourself to me now? Her voice faded behind you. Tao Lele was itching to turn around and slap her. She knew how much Xiaojia loved singing. Throwing that in her face like this was cruel beyond words. Your footsteps slowed for just a moment. You looked back at Lu Qianlong and steady, then turned and kept walking, expression unreadable. Xia Xiao said nothing. She pressed her lips together quietly. But then a small, clear voice rang out childlike, but certain. Mama sings better than you. You're a mean lady. Everyone froze. No one had expected the little one to speak up like that. You paused for a beat, then broke into a smile and ruffled Ming's head. That's my girl. Whatever lingering irritation you'd been carrying dissolved in an instant the moment Meng spoke. You walked out without sparing Lu Qian another glance. The group left that place behind. They found a restaurant and settled in. Xia Xiao and Tao Lele picked up their conversation. There had been things weighing on Xia Xiao that she hadn't been able to ask on the street. Now that they were seated with no one around, she took Tao Lele's hand and finally asked the question she'd been holding back. Lele, how did you end up doing odd jobs for Lu Qian? And what about Yinjie? What is she doing now? Yinjie had been Xia Xiao's former manager, nearly 40 years old, and she had always treated Xia Xiao like her own daughter. Hearing the question, Tao Lele's face fell visibly. After you left, Yinjie was let go not long after. She looked for work for a long time and couldn't find anything. Then her mother got sick and was hospitalized. She needed to be at the hospital to care for her, so she ended up taking a job as a live-in caregiver. Xia Xiao hadn't expected Yinjie to have fallen so far. The world in front of her went slightly blurred. A faint image of Yinjie, sharp and capable, floated through her mind. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Xia Xiao pressed her lips together. She knew this was her fault. If she hadn't been so impulsive, Yinjie wouldn't have ended up like this. She had gone against the company time and again, but because she had money and leverage, the company couldn't do much to her. She had just walked away without a second thought. What happened to Yinjie afterward was all too easy to imagine. The mood grew heavy. The group ate quickly, and after a little more conversation, Tao Lele said a hurried goodbye and left. Xia Xiao's spirits stayed low. They had planned to take Meng to the amusement park that afternoon, but now she had no heart for it. You could feel her mood clearly. You thought about saying something, but in the end, nothing came out. You still didn't really understand why Xia Xiao had been so set on marrying you back then, like she'd been under some kind of spell, the original you hadn't known. And you didn't know either. Xia Xiao wanted to go home. She wanted to be alone with her thoughts. But when she caught Meng's hopeful eyes, she couldn't bring herself to disappoint her. For Meng's sake, the three of them went to the amusement park after all. Meng was thrilled it was her first time at an amusement park. She grabbed your hand and tried to sprint straight inside. Xia Xiao forced herself to rally. She didn't want Meng to look back on her first amusement park memory and see a sad family. They started with the carousel, then worked their way through several other rides, and without realizing it, the sky had gradually darkened. Colorful lights began to glow throughout the park. The last ride was the Ferris wheel. By the time you carried a sleeping Meng into the gondola with Xia Xiao, Meng had already dozed off against your chest. The Ferris wheel rose slowly. The glittering, colorful buildings below shrank smaller and smaller. What you didn't know was that this was also Xia Xiao's first time in an amusement park and her first time on a Ferris wheel. Her eyes were wide and curious, taking everything in through the gondola window, bright with wonder. She was looking out. You were looking at her. Maybe she sensed your gaze. Her earlobes slowly turned pink, and she gave you a faintly reproachful side glance that you'd never been on the receiving end of a look like that before. It was a lot to handle. The gondola's soft lights fell across her thin face, and for a moment you felt almost dazzled. The Ferris wheel continued its slow ascent. Then, all at once, fireworks burst into the sky from every corner of the park simultaneously. In the light of the fireworks, you saw it clearly, a pure, unguarded smile breaking across Xia Xiao's face. It came from somewhere deep inside. You were a little transfixed. The Ferris wheel reached its peak. The fireworks blazed even closer. Xia Xiao's face was even more breathtaking. You don't have to be afraid like that anymore. Your voice was soft beneath the sound of the fireworks. Xia Xiao didn't quite catch it. She turned to look at you. Eyes questioning. You didn't look at her. You kept your gaze on the brilliant colors blooming in the sky. That you're too gentle. That's not safe. People will take advantage of it. You don't have to be afraid like before anymore. I know.